Welcome in, Hanna Time here. Cardinals post-game. Tough loss. Embarrassing in many ways. But Louise Sharpe in the house. Louise. All right, so we're going to talk a lot about this tough loss. Rough. Well, we're going to talk about this. We're going to break it down. We'll find some good things and hopefully some things we can look forward to against the Raiders next week. But not good, folks. Not good at all. We're going to break it down for you here. Folks, I'll tell you one thing. If you're Cardinal fans, you're leaving the game, come on in. We got a nice a link for you to grab. Talk live with us on camera. Your thoughts about the game. Look for the link on the post right now. And bring it on in. We got a couple of people, a couple of fans lined up. Cornelius Brad, Hanna, Louise Sharpe, former Arizona Cardinal, 3-time Pro Bowl, the legend himself, joins us. In 30 seconds, we start. Welcome back, Hanna Time, Cardinals post game. Louise Sharpe on my side here for a good hour of Cardinal talk, and some fans are going to chime in again. Look at the link below on the post and log in. Let me hear you. Let me hear it. Okay, nearly 500 yards the Kansas City Chiefs put together today. The score reflects in it. 44 points by the Chiefs. First game of the year. Some questions to talk about, and some of the things that I am concerned. Who's to blame? Where do we start with this? Preseason, unprepared, poor matchups in this game. Of course they were. Injuries, you can put it out there too, but still not prepared in a direction that you start week one of the NFL. Fans are already pointing the fingers at the preseason, not playing enough, not getting them ready, sluggish, slow. Yeah, you can point those fingers. But also you can look at the way Mahomes played today. They were in sync. They're familiar with each other. They know each other. Cardinals have a lot of new faces and a lot of different parts coming in, offense and defense. Our biggest concern in the preseason was the Cardinals' defense. And you got to look at it. Even though J.J. Watt was not there, I don't think it would have made a difference, to be honest with you. All right, Louise Sharpe, let's bring you in real quick, and we'll break it down for you. I got so much to talk about, frustration on both sides. But, Louise, your first starts opening up the show.
Well, as I said earlier, what a dismal performance, a game that so many of us have been looking forward to all offseason. Thought we could kick it off on the right foot and get the season started winning ways, turn around what happened with the Rams in the playoff game, and with the hopes of going deep and possibly playing in the home team Super Bowl here in Glendale. And they are quite a distance away. And all of us today have good reason to have sad faces. That was really an embarrassment out there on that football field, I feel.
All right, Louis, some of the things that we noted here is that Cardinals have never lost to Andy Reid as a head coach, but Mahomes has never lost a week one game. And today, obviously, they were more prepared. Let's talk about the preparation leading into week one of the NFL season itself. You're a player, former player that was used to playing, you said, 3/4 of football, at least in the final game of the preseason.
You know, that was one of the things watching the Cardinals in the preseason to wrap my mind around. I had a hard time wrapping my mind around the fact that the first team defenses and offense didn't play in any of the preseason games. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a new generation and this must be how they do it. But I know when I played, first preseason game, starters played a quarter. Second preseason game, 2 quarters. Third preseason games, 3 and maybe 3/4 in the last preseason game. I feel as an NFL player, you have to go out there under the bright lights, under the pressure, and develop as a team some cohesion, some consistency, some confidence. And those are some of the things that we did not see offensively or defensively with Arizona Cardinals today.
All right, so the Cardinals coming into this game too, with all those injuries everybody was worried about, it definitely exposed them a lot more. Obviously, their depth on their roster, their chart is not as strong, and that was a concern for the last couple of seasons. And today it was really exposed in a higher level. Some guys had some good games. I mean, Marco Wilson, I thought fantastic. To me, he's the best cornerback on that team, and he plays tough and tight. And I was excited to see him back because he was injured towards the end of the season, and he may have been one of those missing links from last year at the end where they could have maybe won a game to get over the top a little bit. Benjamin, I know it was a little bit towards the end of the game, but in the second half, but the energy he brought, the no die, never quit mentality, also is inspiring to see because you can easily quit when you're down by so many points itself. And it was nice to see that. There were some highlights, the Marquise Brown touchdown, a couple of nice catches. You can think of things like that maybe, just maybe it takes time. But why week one of the NFL that you're really in a preseason mode? At least is that the excuse? I mean, I know it's not, but why that they look like they were week one of the preseason, if anything. Offensively, nearly 500 points for the Chiefs. For the Cardinals, a few hundred yards. And Kyler Murray at halftime had 88 yards throwing the ball, while Mahomes had 215. Quickly, easily, the Chiefs took control of this game, 14-0. Cardinals got back in 14-7, and we thought, okay, maybe the Cardinals can find a way to stay close enough and something breaks. Week one of the NFL, a lot of teams, make a lot of mistakes. They're sluggish, penalties, there's turnovers. Not a lot of turnovers in this game. Not a lot of penalties in this game. It was complete dominance. And the Cardinals, what surprised me was their offense. And Luis, you can tap into this now. If anything, that offense should have been ready to go. But Kyler Murray did not take a snap during preseason. And you would assume he can just jump in because he knows, but there's new faces, right? There's new system. It's been a whole year, okay? The offense output, besides James Conner, who played his tough James Conner way, there was nothing. I mean, there was no sharing the football enough. They weren't getting the ball deep downfield. They were playing one deep, two deep, the Chiefs. They were challenging the Cardinals, everything underneath. You're not beating us deep. And once that was taken away, the Cardinals offense really struggled a whole lot too.
Well, I think, you said a mouthful. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, you have to develop in the preseason, you have to develop the confidence as an offense. You have to develop the consistency, the synergy that you have with one another. And as you said, they look like a first team or first preseason game team today. We know that there are issues with the defense. Chandler Jones is with the Raiders now. Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons in that linebacker core. Big question marks. The secondary, they need players. They don't have any corners or really good shutdown type corners. So I believe that this team, if they're going to win football games, they're going to have to outscore most teams. They're going to have to put up 30 to 40 points to have any chance with that defense. Look at J.J. Watt, 35, 34 years old, and he can't even make the first game, and he didn't even play in the preseason. So what does that tell you? He's going to have some issues. And I don't mean to sound positive, but, let's just look at the facts. We're going to have to score more points than the other team to win. And our offense is far from being in I would say game 4, game 5, when you really pick up your stride in that type of shape, having that kind of confidence, it's going to take a few weeks.
We're seeing a lot of comments coming in right now with fans either messaging on the screen or wanting to get in live on camera. Don't forget, there is a link below on the post. Look for it, grab it, click on it, and then jump in. We're live at JJ's Grub Shack in East Mesa, Arizona. We love this place, and that's going to be our home for Cardinals post game and also Thursday night football. So come on down whenever we get a chance, or you get a chance to be down here with us. Okay, but Luis is in town from his hometown, Michigan, and was more than happy to join us, Luis. And I'll tell you what, when you are challenged like you are after this going into the next game, where do you go from here now? Like the spirit of team, it's only one game. It's a marathon season. But where do you go? You've been down this path before. You've dealt with things like this, but leadership is big. How would you handle this week as Luis Sharpe was in that locker room?
Well, your leaders, you have to recognize that, yeah, this is only the first game, and you were embarrassed at home. You had very high expectations coming into this game, possibly playing in the Super Bowl at your home stadium. So now you got to regroup, and you got to gather the troops, and you got to come together as a unit. There's going to be a lot of criticism from the outside world, and you really can't listen to newscasts or news reporters with all the criticism. You got to stick together as a team, and you have to focus, figure out what it is that you did wrong. Where do you need to make the improvements and correct the mistakes that you made, and basically get back on track. And you don't have a lot of time to do it. It's not like you have 3 or 4 preseason games, to get yourself together. So yeah, it's going to take a lot of the onus, I feel, is going to be on the leaders of the team.
All right, let's get one of our listeners and fans coming in. Mike Buchanan. Mike, I'm going to pop you on the screen here real quick. There you are, Mike. How are you, Mike?
What's up, guys? Good talking to you guys and having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, how are you feeling after this loss?
Man, I was really concerned going into it, just like kind of Luis said a while ago. I was expecting us to have to win, score 30, 35 points to even have a shot. And it played out just like that. The defense is a big hit and miss right now,
All right, what surprised you that really let you down today? That's where we're going with this.
To be honest with you, I think Isaiah Simmons had his worst game as a Cardinal today.
You mean Kyler had his worst game?
No,
Coach K?
Isaiah Simmons.
Isaiah Simmons. Okay, I missed that. So we were on. Luis and I noticed a few things about Isaiah Simmons today, and just overreacting. Even Zaven Collins. I mean, this is what they wanted, right, Luis?
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. What was your point?
Well, I was going to bring up a few things. Have we seen enough of Vance Joseph yet? Oh, my goodness. Vance is really struggling. And the defense it's struggled ever since he's been here for the most part. The soft zones, they play way too much soft zone that allows easy throws.
So
it's
Vance Joseph, the DC, got his hands full, right? Talent level is not strong on defense, and is he able to be creative enough to keep this defense intact, for the long haul? This is only week 1.
Oh, so bad. And I don't know if you guys have thought about it, but if I'm not mistaken now, the Cardinals still struggle at home. I believe that's 7 in a row or 6 in a row.
Wait, you think they're going to lose 6 in a row? Wait. Repeat that again.
They've lost 6 home games in a row now.
Okay. So 6 home games in a row they've lost. It's gotten worse from a year ago, right? Now, maybe on the flip side of it, a slow start, which a strong finish, because we've gotten the other side the last couple of years with the Cardinals. Maybe a stronger finish is the theme for this year, or the storyline for this year.
Another thing that kind of sticks out to me, and Luis can probably follow up on this since he was an offensive player, but the 2-minute offense in each half is very, very important. And the Cardinals continue to struggle in the 2-minute game of halves. They went 0 for 2 today, and the Chiefs got a touchdown. So basically, we were -3 in the 2-minute drill today.
Absolutely. That's a key component of any offensive team. You want to go out there and you want to produce and you practice that. You have drills in practice, 2-minute drills that you practice, and I just feel like they just are underprepared. We talked about, we bragged about Kyler Murray, offensive play calling capabilities during the preseason. You need to go out there under the bright lights, under the pressure, as a unit, and develop some cohesion. And when I was watching, I could not believe that none of the first team, particularly offense, played any of the preseason games. I just couldn't
Absolutely.
believe that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, how's that going to play out? We'll see. And obviously we saw the result of them not putting any work in under the pressure, under the preseason pressure against the opposition first team. But absolutely, the the 2 minute drill is a key component of any offense, and you want to at least drive down there at the end of the half and score 3 points, not turn the football over. I think that's what they did, didn't they, Mike? They turned it over, and the Chiefs scored right before the half.
I believe it was on downs.
Downs. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
on downs, but still, I mean, it's exactly what we're talking about. Is trying to put together. They put together one nice drive, got it down to 14-7, and you just thought maybe they could make a defensive stop, and because they were basically shorthanded. They were handicapped today, but they were so much handicapped that they had a perfect game. I mean, in many areas of the game itself, and you couldn't make fundamental mistakes. Defensively, they weren't tackling. A lot of room to run. The middle of the field was always open between the tight end being open or the wide receivers getting open. And Mahomes wasn't really pressured a whole lot, and there was no pressure. So then that Chandler Jones, another talk about where's it coming from, and is it coming from? And Marcus Golden is a good ball player, but it's easier to take out one when you got two, rushing the quarterback like that. There's no push from the middle. Um, I don't know if it gets any better. I don't feel comfortable and confident it's going to get any better with that pass rush. And when you have linebackers that are your first young set of linebackers that you've drafted with a lot of youth and promise, have yet to step up, have yet to dominate a game, take over games. Zaven Collins had a couple of flashes today, but at the same time, he was a no-show. And this is what you have with, Jordan Hicks gone, right? Your leadership, your quarterback on defense. Who is it now? Who's their leader? Buda Baker. All right, he had another good game, Buda. But when we talk about the front eight, the line of scrimmage, that's where it's win and loss. And that, Louise. You'll lose your game. You'll lose the battle if you can't win at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that, we lost Chandler Jones to free agency. Marcus Golden did not practice at all during the preseason. So he's not, he's first preseason game ready. He hasn't had any work. He just stepped out onto the football field and he sat around for 4 weeks. So it's going to take him 2 or 3 weeks to get in form to perform and rush the passer and put pressure on the quarterback. And like you said, we're inexperienced at the linebacker position. There's a lot of question marks on defense, and that's why I feel strongly that the football team, the Cardinal football team, is going to have to outscore most of its opponents that they play in order for them to have any chance of winning football games this year.
When your defensive backs lead the team in tackles,
Yeah.
that you're in trouble.
There is a lot to be said when it comes to fatigue in this game, and anything you do in life in general, right? Mental and physical. And when you're doing intervals or conditioning drills and things like that, or game conditioning, by the second quarter, your legs could be tired because, and that's the impression I was getting, was they were already getting tired, because they weren't getting enough reps, so by the third, fourth quarter, when the game got really blown up, it was just, they were physically checking out because their bodies weren't moving. They were making mental mistakes. And that's part of it. When you're tired, right, as an athlete, you're mentally are breaking. And so it really fell apart second half for sure. But that's one thing I was noticing. And if preseason, if you can get your guys conditioned to a level where you won't see these kind of things, because then you make mistakes. It wasn't the penalties as much as not reading an offense right, a gap or hole, a coverage that you're supposed to be in and reacting or overreacting. You're when you're tired and you're at the wheel, not a good thing to have, right?
Greg Dortch had a really good game.
Who was that?
Dortch.
Oh yeah.
He had a really
You're
good game.
talking about cohesiveness. You got to work together as an offensive unit, and the only way you develop that cohesiveness is you go out there again in the preseason, and you make your mistakes and you learn from your mistakes in training camp. That's what training camp preseason games are for. And Kingsbury, for some reason, didn't want to lose any players, didn't want to see anyone get hurt, and he decided to keep his players from the preseason. And I believe it showed. The lack thereof showed today in the game against the Chiefs.
Man,
All right. Hey, Mike.
If they play like they did today, they're staring 0-3 in the face.
Yeah, they got the Raiders next week, and then the Rams come in here too. So, hey, it's a marathon season, Mike. We're going to let you go here in a second. It's a marathon season. It's a marathon season, and a lot of good things can still happen. We feel bad for the fans. I mean,
let me ask you guys a question. What do you think for the offense? Because the offense is where they paid Kyler all that money. They got Connor. They kept him in free agency. Got Marquise Brown. And, of course, D-Hop has got a 6-game suspension. But in that period that he's suspended, what do you guys think they need to do to improve offensively here going into the second regular season game?
Mike, you comment before you leave?
I think kind of going on what Luis just brought up, they're going to have to play better on offense and keep that defense off the field. That's bottom line. That's the key to winning.
All right, Mike. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. All right, man. We'll talk to you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's Mike Buchanan, Cardinal fan, diehard. Guy lives in Dallas, of all places, but for some reason he picked the Cardinals as his team. So you can't get any better than that, too. All right, so we're going to break it down some more here for you, too. So the fans itself, you spent a lot of money on this game. You definitely should be frustrated. Your team wasn't prepared. When you say always one game, but how far off are they? All right, next week you come back and you win a game and beat the Raiders, who barely lost to the Chargers on the road today. But
don't assume that they're going to beat the Raiders next. And the Raiders got beat today. So they're not going to be happy playing at home, opening up at home, first game at home next week after losing the game they were supposed to win. So you can't assume that the Cardinals are just going to go in there and win.
Right. So there's a lot of work to be done. And hopefully after one game, a real game that their starters got involved in, they were able to work during the week, break down the film, got a feel for the game at a higher level. And, the one thing that we can talk about, that they kept the offense out there. We were talking like, all right, don't want anybody hurt. But they kept the offense out there to find that rhythm, to find something to go into the week. And they did. They put some points on the board. Yes, it was not the time of the game that was competitive in that level. But the game wasn't truly over. It was third quarter football still, and you wanted to see that. But again, the Cardinals and Murray out of sync. And can they find it? Yes. Is this going to happen the rest of the season? We all expect it's not going to happen. But you better get it right, and you better get it fast, because you could be 0-3 or 1-3, where you're already behind. The Niners lost. Seattle's got a game. The Rams lost. This division, you're still okay in that aspect. But how far are you from really looking at as a team that is a legitimate playoff team? Because last season, this team was not at the end of the year. They backdoored into it. We got more to talk about here. I got some fans. I want to talk about this, Luis, is what I'm hearing right now. One fan said, I think it was Dave Hoffman, that he said on his comment that this is the worst that he's felt since Coach Wilkes was the coach a couple of years ago, when the team just was in a mess. And it did feel like that today. It completely felt where they were 3-4 years ago. when this team took the field with Coach Will?
It was a complete debacle. It was an embarrassment, particularly with the high hopes we had leading up to this game all offseason long. And the effort the organization made in bringing Marquise Brown in, signing Tyler to the extension that they signed him to, hanging on to James Conner, we had a lot of hope. And that hope and those expectations we had obviously did not materialize today, and it was very disappointing.
Yeah, we're going to look at the receiving corp right now. And, when you think about what they were trying to do and all the big hype and talk, was Marquise Brown really that big of a threat? Did he really have one of those games? Was he targeting or were the Cardinals utilizing the way you all thought it was going to happen? Didn't happen that way. For one, the Chiefs took away the deep ball. Marquise is not really a possession receiver, folks. He's a speedster. He's a 20-yard guy down the field, big play kind of guy. And learned that today. It's easy to take that away. And, guys like Dortch had a great game because he was playing within 10 yards. Did they miss Ronald Moore? Sure. But where was A.J. Green? He was there. Was he not getting open? Was he not getting targeted? Zach Ertz had a decent game. But overall, it wasn't really like the ball was shared around the field. They took away a lot of, like half the field was taken away, basically. So everything was underneath. And at the same time, Kyler Murray was backpedaling more, wasn't comfortable in the pocket. He was rolling around, running around still. And when you see that, he doesn't like what he has downfield. Something was taken away. All right. It wasn't like the pressure was really on him, but he was trying to create with his feet to get out of the pocket. And usually when you get out of the pocket, you break down the defense a little bit. Things kind of open up. And Kyler's effective that way. And that's kind of his game, folks, too, is get it out of the pocket and make some throws. And he did make plays that way. But at the same time, it's not a good sign. The offensive line struggled, okay? They didn't really do a great job of running the ball today. Kyler had more yards rushing the football today. He's a quarterback, folks. James Conner, Benjamin, we're not really – and whose fault is that? When we talk about the offensive line, Luis, itself, and running the football, this is your specialty. There's no push today. It was nothing.
You can't. You got to, as an offensive line, as a unit, you got to develop a certain mentality. Okay, you don't necessarily. Yeah, practice is part of developing that mentality. Where you. And one of the things I tell people all the time, one of the things I enjoyed about being an offensive lineman, playing in the NFL, there's nothing better in American culture than being able to force a grown man against his will from point A to point B, against his will, be paid handsomely and not pick up any charges. Okay. And that's kind of a mentality. You develop that playing against other teams in the preseason, just pounding the football. Working that unity, that cohesion with your linemen to the point where you don't even have to communicate. You just know based upon, experience and based upon practice sessions and seeing things over and over that you know exactly who's blocking who, when you're double teaming, all of the nuances of offensive line play. And when you don't play in the preseason, and now they don't even practice, they don't even hit in practice. So they've not had any live action at all this preseason. And I think you saw the result of that out there on that football field, and it was embarrassing. And you know what? I'm glad I didn't pay $500 for 2 tickets because I would be pretty upset right now if I paid that kind of money for that to watch that kind of performance.
The product on the field was not worth the dollar you spent, and this is a big. It's gonna get to the fans more if it gets worse. That's the thing. I expect things to get a little bit better. I think it's not going to be as bad as it was today, but this is what you get when you're not really fully prepared and you haven't really did it in the preseason, like Luis was expressing there. So when you look at the stat sheet, it looks like the Cardinals, and they had 100 yards rushing, but like most of that came with the backup quarterback in that last drive in the last minutes of the game. So it kind of get those unnecessary or useless stats kind of thing. But the Cardinals overall could not run the ball, really didn't try to run the ball effectively, make it a big point. They really tried to get the ball up in the air, and there wasn't a lot of either options or were not able to get the ball downfield where they wanted to. No deep threat. So let me give you some numbers here real quick, and then time of possession. Cardinals had 25 minutes, 10 minutes less, basically, when you compare the two. 10 minutes less than the Kansas City Chiefs itself. That's basically a team at some point, the Chiefs just owning you, milking that, not just milking the clock, but long drives, wearing you down. And that fatigue factor, if you're not ready to play in week one and conditioned right, that's going to be a problem in the fourth quarter.
And interject, the Kansas City Chiefs offensive first team, I saw them play in the preseason. I saw Mahomes play in the preseason. You don't think that makes a difference?
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest things in preseason, and it's a great topic because a lot of teams around the NFL had a hard time today getting out of the gates. And some of them, it took maybe a first half of football. We saw teams, like look at the Green Bay Packers today. They were being shut out 17-0. You can look at they lost some players and things like that. It may take a week or two, and you may be able to survive through the first month of football. That's why I've always told you, wake me up when September ends, because then I get a real feel of where teams are. And if you're 0-3 or 0-4, or, you got a lot of work to be done, right? But usually we don't know enough about NFL teams now. The way they have their summer camps and preseason stuff, it takes like a month to really find out your identity, who you are, your role, everything's syncing, the chemistry coming together, and you should have that going into week one. And unfortunately, that's when I say wake me up, because then I'll know, because most teams will have 4 games played, right? And you'll know who they are, and maybe it's too late. That's the sad thing about it. We were watching some great football today, great comebacks, right? Down to the wire. The Cardinals weren't even close to that. Far off. But they're not the only team that didn't play their guys. But you got to play your quarterback, at least in the final game. All right. I mean, even Tom Brady got back after everything he got with the stuff with his family or whatever it was. 11 days later, they put him right into the game, got him some rhythm, and we'll see how he does tonight against Dallas. But it is Tom Brady, so we can't compare Brady to Murray, right? But even the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they had their quarterback situation, right? They went into Cincinnati today. But to Mike Tomlin, he played everybody. They were playing. TJ Watt was playing every game. They were out there, and you risk injury. But hey, Luis here, he was risking injury also in preseason. But if your body's not ready, you got to get there.
Listen, you got to take the risk if you want to avoid the performance that we saw tonight. At home in front of what? How many? 80,000? How many was it? 80,000 home fans that have been waiting all off season to watch you perform. You got to go out there and risk injury to prepare yourself to not embarrass yourself like they did today.
All right, guys, we only got a few more minutes here, but let me go over some things that we wrote down. I'm going to just my notes. So, the challenges, after 3 quarters of football was my biggest concern today. It was pretty much done by halftime. I think the Cardinals were pretty much checking out by that time. Needed some strong defensive stops and not able to dial up a blitz package or even prepared, because Mahomes he was waiting for your blitz packages. He was waiting for that, and he had to feel he's difficult to blitz. And the Cardinals didn't really have an answer the whole game on defense to slow him down, to get him off the field enough. And then your offense wasn't able to produce itself. I'm looking at my notes here. Every player not getting involved on offense. Yes, I didn't think that was a big – I think it was a big deal not getting your offense all in sync right away, even that first quarter itself. Isaiah Simmons had a dropped interception. There was a couple of penalties on that same play itself. Cards looked slow. Chiefs looked like they were urgency coming out of that locker room opening drive itself. Chiefs easy opening drive. They mixed it up with the run and the pass. Cardinals tried that, but just couldn't manufacture any long drive until they got it to 14-7 itself. The Kelsey tight end situation continues to destroy the Cardinals defense year after year. If Coach Joseph cannot figure out how to take away the middle of the field and prevent the tight end to be as open as they are, Kelsey had a field day. What, he had like 10 catches? I mean, it was destroying them. I'm just going to try to go back to the numbers here on Kelsey itself. It was he had over 120 yards. Let's just put it that way for a tight end, right? I know we know it's Kelsey the tight end too, but still, Isaiah Simmons had nothing. He couldn't cover him. He was tripping over his own feet. It was embarrassing it that way. Now, Zaven Collins itself, we talked about that. James Conner, some of the positives about James Conner, again, shows you the heart and maybe the soul of that offense. Because without him, I don't know what even happens today with that Cardinals offense, if they even put up points, by the way. Cardinals, let's see. Marco Wilson having a lot of good defensive plays, was challenged. Budda Baker had a great open field tackle on a fourth down situation. So there were some star players making plays but you got to have a full team, right? You got to have a full team. Cards defense made a stop late in the second quarter that we thought maybe that could be the turning point to find some, let's say some positive going into the locker room. But the Cardinals offense needed some points, and they got something, but it was 23-7 at halftime. So by that point, the Cardinals were struggling to figure out what their offense was, and what is it going to be going into the Raider game next week in Las Vegas itself. Other than that, I think I got a lot in there. I'm going to look at some comments here. All right, some comments coming in. A lot of people saying hi to Luis. Ishmael says Cardinals played soft. Let's see here. Ron Sanchez says, man, oh man, Cardinals got to get together fast. That was just embarrassing. I think a lot of fans really don't want to talk about it today, to tell you the truth, if you're really thinking about it. Now, going into next week, Luis, Vegas, Raiders, they need a win. They lost today itself, so they're looking at the same situation. But where is leadership going into after this? Is embarrassing. You've been waiting all year long for this one game, and this team was supposed to be better than what it showed today. At least that's what we were thinking. You got to go in next week. Where is the leadership? Who is the leadership? You've dealt with it before. This is a question I brought on to you early in the show, but it crosses my mind. I don't know who's stepping up, right? And is it a vocal one? Is it a loud one? Right?
Let me ask, how do you share this with me?
Oh, I'll just go ahead and just share it with you. So, yeah.
Will I go to your page and do it?
Yeah. Just go right on there. All right. Oh, you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Well, they got a tough road to hoe. And yeah, it is going to take demonstrative leadership. And I don't know. I know that when we played, we were allowed to hit in training camp. We were allowed to hit in practice. Nowadays, football teams don't hit like we did in our day. And when I say hit, I mean like live practices, live blocking, live pass protection in practice. On Wednesday and Thursday, those were live days. And you develop a certain callousness as a team when you play preseason games, and you have to go against the number one.
So what about week's practice? Are they hitting? They got to hit, right? They got to.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what the protocol, what the rules have changed so much. I know they don't hit in training camp anymore like we used to. But that's what I think it's going to take. They got to develop some callousness. In other words, you're used to the hitting and the grunting and the forcing someone from point A to point B. That's just part of what you do, part of who you become. And I didn't see that. I didn't see that with this football team on today. And going into LA or going into Vegas against a Raider team that's playing their first home game at their new stadium with their new coach and their new wide receiver, Devontae Adams, okay, they are going to want to win that football game. That's going to be a huge challenge for the Cardinals. The leaders are going to have to step up and amongst themselves lead this team in a different direction that we saw today.
What's the embarrassing part of this game is like not showing up next week, right? Like you got to show up next week because if it snowballs, this team is in a mess right now. It'll go in a direction where you got to at least show up. If it's a win next week, fantastic. If somehow it's a loss next week against the Raiders, play hard, be in the game, like have something coming out of it to where you're weak in practice, you're better in line for the rest of the season. If this team does not show up, this is my concern. If they don't show up, Luis, this next week against the Raiders, so we really got to think about something really serious about it. I'm watching the owner's box, and I'm looking at them. And they're stone in the face, leaking like what they're just prepared for all year. To have this show up on the home field on 9/11, a spiritual day, a day, and this is what you get. This is the product you get on the field. And I'm sure Mr. Michael Bidwell was furious inside. Okay. He doesn't like to lose. This guy he's a competitor, and he's got his big guy next to him. And I'm just wondering one day, like behind closed doors, do these guys got to have these hot conversations? I mean, panic button? No, but man, not good. This is what which is what GM Kynes put together, by the way. This is what he put together. Not ready, not prepared.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, it was the first game after an offseason full of expectations, much higher expectations. Today, they put Mr. Bidwell, rest in peace, they put his name on the Ring of Honor. So it was a significantly important day. And to have that kind of showing, that kind of performance, after all of the improvements and all of the signings and players, everything that they did to make this team a better team, I think I would be pretty upset, pretty disappointed.
Yeah.
And looking, hey, listen, what is the problem? How can we embarrass ourselves at home in front of that many fans, after all that we did in the offseason to improve this football team? Is this a problem, and how can we fix this problem quickly going into Vegas to play the Raiders next week?
Well, the Raiders ended up getting looking forward to next week now. They were not looking good early on against the Chargers. Chargers looked really good. But the Raiders found their offense, and they were basically, they lost like 5 or 6 points today. So they had a chance at the very end of the game. They just needed one more possession, never got the ball back, but they made it a game. Yeah, definitely. They're I'm trying to see. Oh, right here. Right there. There you go. So what I'm getting to is the Raiders seemed like they found themselves in the second half. Cardinals seemed like they found themselves on offense. They kept everybody out there. We were wondering, is this when do you pull your starters and try to keep everything safe and don't make this a worse situation as it is going into the rest of the season, right? With all the injuries already mounting on the Cardinals roster. But the defense for the Cardinals is our biggest concern. I still believe the Cardinals offense will have better days. I believe that they'll find their rhythm and find it and get it going. And I believe they'll be putting up, they put up a bunch of points today still. And I believe they can put up more points. But when your defense is up 4 points and really didn't have a chance today. I mean, it was just, you got them off the field once, made them punt, but it was like, can you do it 2 or 3 times in a row? This is right now. This is not a Super Bowl team, obviously. Defensively, they are far behind from a year ago, where that defense was the glue of that team to getting off to that undefeated start. It really was, folks. The defense came out of the gates and was really strong, but they're missing some key veterans, no longer there. It's a younger unit now, and the talent level obviously has dropped off. Because we're talking a high-profile offense, right? You may win some games, but when you go up against the best, this is what you're going to get. And the Cardinals on defense, Coach Joseph, I don't know what he's going to be thinking about, but at 44 points on opening day, this is what you prepared for.
Yeah, that's man, they got a lot of things to consider, and I believe, not that I'm a fortune teller or anything, but I believe the lesson that's going to be learned through this start, and I don't think that they're going to have a very, like Mike Buchanan was saying. Mike is saying, see, he's seeing 0-3 already. And what we're going to learn is the importance of preseason participation, preseason games, making sure that your starters play an appropriate amount. And they don't have to play an entire preseason game, but they have to get out there under that high pressure, under the bright lights, and perform to develop some consistency, some cohesion, and some confidence going into the start of the season. I believe that's a lesson that's going to be learned here.
So Kyler Murray, did he play like the multi-millionaire quarterback? You know, I mean, this is what you paid for.
Michael Bidwell that
I don't know. I this is what I was thinking. I'm looking. I'm in the booth.
Michael Bidwell, if you're watching, did Kyler Murray perform to the level of the expectation of the $50 million 4 year for 46.1? Did he perform to that level?
I think he had a total about 250 yards. So maybe for every yard, he got $1. Right. $1 million for a yard, right? Oh, my God. That's why we made a hard, I think Kyler's going to have a better season. Things will get better. But he was not prepared. Kyle, like, he was out of sync. And, I remember my first time I was on the sidelines at an NFL game. And it's totally different from TV, right? You're on the field there, and the energy, the speed, everything about it is so high. It's at a higher level that you can ever imagine. I mean, it comes at you so fast. And if you don't get enough repetition, and I don't care how long you're playing in the game itself, it moves. It moves. And these athletes today are phenomenal. So it's moving even faster. And I was surprised, but I was amazed how incredible the NFL football players are to play the game itself. It comes onto you so fast. 10-yard gap is closed. It's closed down so quickly. So when you think you have open space, right? So what happens is with Kyler Murray today, he just didn't have any flow. He didn't have any sync with his receivers today. But it's not his fault. I just think that the Chiefs took away a lot of the field. And Kyler was basically diminished to a certain point to where he's got to run, and he ran a few times, right? I mean, if it wasn't for his legs, they don't score that first touchdown, right? But that's what they don't want a $250 whatever million quarterback to be doing, is running around the field getting hit, right? Are you going to wait for D-Hop to come back? They're going to be 1-5. They're going to be 2-4, right? And you just got to hope that the NFC West is, it's still reachable. But somehow, somewhere in an NFL football season, to be a playoff team, you got to get hot. You got to find something. And the Cardinals right now do not look like a team that's going to get hot until, I would say, late October, by the time I see a team that may be finally figuring it out. And that's not a good sign. Not a good sign. It's one game. Louis, are we too hard on one game?
No, I mean, that's a very real possibility, looking at the facts. I'm curious, what are some of the fans saying? What are your thoughts?
Got one right here. Let's see, the Kyler stuff here. Kyler's supposed to be paid. Sure doesn't play like it. Let's see here. Oh, they still want to say hi to you. That's what.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us. Wish you guys could come down here. I'm sure if we would have won the game, you all would be here at JJ's in Mesa, joining us.
All right, so here's a good one. Mary said, Mary Elizabeth said, lots of money went down the rabbit hole.
The fans' money. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about paying a premium to go to the game, and watch them possibly beat the Chiefs at home, get the season start off on the right foot. I'm so glad that I didn't. I chose not to go. What a waste of money that would have been.
Here's something else about money and the Cardinals. They spent more money on the offense. They're one of the highest paid teams offensively. Defensively, they're at the bottom. So they really haven't paid anybody on defense. I don't know what their strategy is, but it really showed.
They paid Marcus Golden. They had to pay Marcus, so he wasn't going to play.
Right.
Marcus just renegotiated, and they paid the safety Thompson too.
Right, Jalen Thompson. So when you put a little money into your defense, and things got desperate, guys getting hurt and things like that, some guys started getting some contracts. But overall, there's a lot of money. And yes, you can say it's Kyler Murray, but there's a lot of money in the offense. But here's the thing, Luis. If all your money, most of your money is going into the offense, where was it today?
Exactly. Yeah, where was it?
Where was it today? All right, so we're live.
Let me see the
Oh, you want to see the comments? Come on. There we go. Just slide right. Ooh. You know how to do it, right? Yeah, one way or the other. There you go. All right. All right. So we have like 2 minutes left before we get out of here, and we're live at JJ Grub Shack here in East Mesa, Arizona. So if you want to come out here on Thursday night, watching Thursday night football, come on down anytime. Also, Cardinal games, road games for sure. Next week against the Raiders, we'll be here live from JJ's in East Mesa. Come on out. All right, no matter what, enjoy the afternoon, watch all the football games. We have our own section over here. You can sit down with us, watch the game, and when we go live.
Very nice restaurant. The food is delicious. Come on out. I may come back Thursday if I'm not too busy.
All right.
And hello to Lucy, Lady Bird, Guterres. Hello to your husband. All of you guys. Todd, thank you guys for chiming in. And Mariana, all you guys, thank you so much for chiming in today. And again, our apologies for what you witnessed today. We're just as long-faced and depressed as you are. It was an embarrassment.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. We were talking. We're like, what can we talk about positive today? You can't.
There's nothing positive.
I can't. Yeah, it's hard. All right, you're 0-1, right? You're 0-1. Last year, you were undefeated through like 7 games. So the marathon has begun. We'll see what happens. We're not happy. Long faces. We get it. Okay. Now, all right. Before we check out one more time, too, if you want to ever get in on the show, just grab that link. Okay. Click on it. Log into it. It'll pop you on the screen. I'll throw you on, and you can always talk about the game, the post-game comments, or anything else that we are. If it's Thursday night football we're watching and you have something on your mind itself, so go ahead and use that link as Mike Buchanan did earlier today too for the show. So we've done this for 1 hour, Luis, and went by really fast.
I thought we would run out of things to talk about, given that there was not a whole lot to talk about in the game.
All right, we're gonna put our music back up. We got to get out of here eventually.
Let me ask you this: next week against the Raiders lost today. What are you seeing? Do we have a chance? Who would be favored? Who's going to be favored next week?
I think the Raiders are definitely a favorite. I would say the Raiders. I would say a -3, -4 underdog for the Cardinals itself. What we saw today, and I think it's fair. And can the Cardinals get any of those injuries back? They need help. They need bodies. They need some talent. They're not a talented team. We saw that. You good?
Yes, sir. I'm very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your comments. God bless you. Have a good night.
Hanna Time, post-game Cardinal show. JJ Grub Shack. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you soon on Hanna Time, Global Sports Broadcasting Network.